So the idea of smuggling a nuclear weapon across the border is pretty much not a thing I get concerned about, because the countries that could potentially do it and get away with it are countries that already have nuclear weapons, or they're our allies, so it wouldn't happen anyways. So what we're talking about is potentially non-state actors such as terrorist organizations, or you have rogue governments potentially doing it with regard to, I don't know, Russia. But again, Russia has a vast nuclear arsenal. They don't need to smuggle nuclear weapons into the US. They know that we are smart enough that if you detonate a nuclear weapon, we're going to be able to retrace its steps and find out where it came from. I mean, we did that fairly easily after just about every terrorist attack that's happened on the US. So, with that being said, the US is in the best position for defending against this. One, because it's the only country with nuclear weapons in the entire Western Hemisphere. There's no land ability to drive nuclear weapons to the United States from anywhere else. You would have to first come by airplane or by boat. And if that were the case, the US has set up across the globe, with the permission and cooperation of many countries across international ports and airports and seaports, we've set up detection systems for this. The reason that people want to work with the United States on this is because they themselves don't want to be a victim of potential nuclear terrorism. The United States isn't the only country to experience terrorism. It happens in Russia, it happens in India, it happens in China, it happens in Europe. It happens all over the globe. And so there's a vested interest in all of the major powers coming together to stop the proliferation of nuclear weapons, especially in non-state actors' hands. So because of this, the US has detection systems all over the world. In fact, we have 36 detection systems in Russia alone, and we work with Russia on that. And as far as I know, we're still working with them on that. But even so, let's say you have a nuclear weapon. The smallest nuclear weapon built was the W-54 warhead, and that was built by the United States, and it weighed 51 pounds. Anything larger than that it starts to become like prohibitive to carry it. Like if you wanted to cross the border through one of the porous areas of our border, you would have to be carrying a nuclear weapon with you across the desert, across the rivers, trying to get through the fences. Maybe you get through a tunnel system by being smuggled. But you would have to do this without being detected by the vast international intelligence community, not just the US, but international intelligence community. Because I can guarantee you Mexico doesn't want a friggin' nuclear weapon rolling through their borders. So you'd have to do this undetected. You'd have to do it likely with a team of people that are willing to do it. And because you are not the United States able to build a 50-pound nuclear weapon, you'd have to do it probably by car, because even the most rudimentary terroristic nuclear weapon would probably be a little smaller than the size of a small car. I mean, we're talking about something that would have to be in a shipping container. And if that's the case, you're just not getting in, because the sophisticated detection equipment that the U.S. has at its border crossings will detect it. Now, there are other methods. Obviously, we've seen boats and such that can carry these things across the border. But again, once you get on into the United States, unless you detonate it right when you're outside of a major city, in which case there's nothing we can do about that. There really isn't, other than have a response. But unless you detonate it outside of a major city, say like San Diego or something like that, if you're putting it on the road, you're still having to deal with the interstate highway system set of detection capability that we have in the US. So it becomes very difficult. And it doesn't mean it's impossible, but I'm just saying that there's a reason that we don't have this happening. A lot of this detection equipment, most of the world is working together to stop something like this from happening, because it's far more easy to set off a nuclear weapon in Moscow through it being smuggled, or in somewhere like St. Petersburg, or anywhere in India or Pakistan or somewhere in the Middle East, than it is to do it in the United States. And so other countries work together to make sure this stops, and they rely on US and Western technology. In fact, the United States definitely, on all of our ports, we have detection equipment, but last I saw, it was like 26 different international major ports the US has detection equipment, especially all the ports that come into the United States. So just again, not something I'm worried about. On the things that'll probably kill me someday, this is very, very, very low on that totem pole.